we go. Sorry about that. What would a good-natured hour be without a little technical snafu? Huh? I grabbed the wrong USB and I didn't plug in the camera. I plugged in, I don't know, whatever this belongs to. Anyway, good evening, folks, and welcome to another fun-filled hour of news from the world of nature. And I have to say, a lot of what we're going to talk about this week is supplied by you, our loyal viewers and readers too. It's been kind of a busy week, and what we've got here, we've got a compilation of some follow-ups to past stories that we've talked about, and then some new material too. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our slideshow for this evening. All right, stop it. All right. So, is everybody looking at a pile of mud? Let's hope. Yep. Actually, we're going to start with this part of this story. This is the elusive skunk cabbage fruit. But this is not something that I found recently. This is the picture that I found, the fruit that I found. This photo actually dates back to April when I was out looking at the skunk cabbage that had already bloomed and was starting to send out its large leaves, the big foliage that it puts out in the springtime. Here you can see we've got a little jewel weed popping up here, and here is a look at the fruit. Let's zoom in. So this fruit would have come to be from the flowers that appeared in 2021. This was in April of 2022. So this thing had then sat over the winter. I would say it was about the size of, maybe a large plum. And it's got these sections on it, much like what you would see on a pineapple. So this thing had overwintered and hadn't been disturbed by anything. So at this point, I thought, well, every year we go out and we look for skunk cabbage as a sign of spring or of the coming spring. Sometimes this thing is blooming, when there's still snow on the ground. So I put a note on my calendar for September to go back out again to look for the fruit. And of course, time got away from me. It was almost October before I decided to make good on that. And I went out. Actually, Laura, you and I, we talked about it a number of times. You went out and looked unsuccessfully. And then I went probably to the same spot at Fearsome Creek Fen. And what we found was the shoots. So this is the plant that will produce a flower come next late winter / early spring. Skunk cabbage, that's the flower that can, through a chemical reaction, melt its way through snow if it has to, in order to be our earliest blooming spring wildflower. And so I tromped all around at Fearsome Creek Fen. Sarah, I know you said you checked over at Glenwood, which is where that picture of the skunk cabbage fruit came from. The day I was at Fearsome Creek Fen, our restoration crew was there. They were herbiciding, some reed canary and one other plant I can't think of. But yeah, taking care of some invasives. So here they were tromping all over the fen, and they said they hadn't seen any either. So I don't know what the deal is. If the fruit has been dispersed already, I would imagine there's some animals that might take it, or maybe some insects even that take the sections of fruit away, or I don't know, maybe this is something where there's big years and then there's off years too. I don't know, but the search continues. I got a tip last weekend about a large stand of skunk cabbage up on some private property off of McDonald Road. So I might try to take a run up there, see if I can get permission to look around to see if we can find some actual skunk cabbage fruit before it's too late, before the snow does come and bury it. Well, so while I was at the Fen, Laura, you had mentioned this too, The crayfish have been really active there. And I took the opportunity to take some photos. But can you believe I was there and I didn't have a lip balm? I couldn't believe I went through my jacket pocket, my pants pockets. I somehow I left the house without lip balm that day. But I did have a quarter, which is very rare. I hardly ever have change on me like that. But so I thought I would try using the quarter here for scale. This thing was massive. Here I'm standing, in front of it here. I would say this thing was it was over 10 inches. I would say it's close to a foot tall. And this is what we call a crayfish chimney. And they're created by our burrowing crayfish species. We've got in the Chicagoland area, there's 3 around here. There's really only 2 that we see frequently. One is the prairie crayfish, and the other is the devil crayfish. I'm thinking this is a devil, just given the size. That's the larger of those species. That hole was sizable, and this mound was incredible. They dig down to get to the water table, and then they roll those balls of dirt up, soil up to the top until they create this big mound. Looks kind of like a volcano there at the fen. Well, you can kind of see where this is going to go. I was taking pictures from different angles and trying to really show the impressive size of this chimney. I set the quarter up there on the top of the chimney. I took a picture. I thought, it's just not quite right. I'm going to move it ever so slightly over, and blink, it went down the hole. I didn't hear a splash. I didn't hear a clunk. I didn't hear a complaint from the resident crayfish. But so I don't know how far down this particular burrow goes, but there's a crayfish at Fearsome Creek Fen that is 25 cents richer than it was a week ago. I was kind of thinking, in fact, I was telling somebody the story over the weekend, and he said, boy, that has the makings of a children's book. I thought, children's book, kids of all ages. I don't know. It might be kind of fun to imagine what a crayfish might do with 25 cents. But anyway, the other thought I had was, what if it comes out? What if the crayfish decides it doesn't want it? They can pick up things with those claws that they have, those pinchers. This particular crayfish chimney is very near the overlook at Fearsome Creek Fen that is closest to Route 31. So if you guys, any of you do head out there to look for skunk cabbage or crayfish chimneys and you find 25 cents, let me know. I think it'd be kind of interesting to know what these guys do when something intrusive like money falls down and falls into their little home underneath the ground. Anyway, so last week too, we talked about the prevalence of flocks of birds. Birds in our area, they're done with breeding. So a lot of them are leaving the area. They're migrating, heading to points either nearby but southern or far away to the south. And some are just moving around in the area. Our cedar waxwings, they form flocks now, but they don't really go all that far. They just move from food source to food source. And a lot of the birds that we're seeing now that are going to be staying for the winter, they're looking for berries, for fruits that they can feed on. And the evidence of that activity, if you have a bird bath in your yard, you might be finding some of the remains of what's been left behind. Now, this is not something a bird left behind. This was just me wondering what the pokeweed berries look like. And this is a tip from my friend Nikki, who I talked to last week and mentioned last week. She's the one that had the pet wasp, which we have an update on as well. But Nikki said, have you ever taken a loupe, the little magnifiers that you use to look at plant parts? I've got one here in my pocket I can show you at the end. They sell these at Science and Surplus, and you can buy them online. But they magnify. The most common size is a 10x or 10 time loupe, and you put that over the lens of your cell phone, and then you hold it close as you would with your eye. You hold it close to the object you're trying to magnify. Yeah, sort of a makeshift macro view of your subject. So this is pokeweed berries, and they don't seem to lose their color. I tried swishing these around in water. I tried rubbing them. My hands got nice and kind of a pretty purplish red color, but a lot of color stayed there on the berry and didn't come off. And then as I looked at the various things that the birds left behind, the droppings, I saw a lot of berries that were this color. So this does play a role. Most of what comes to my bird bath are robins. I see the cedar waxwings over in the cedar tree, but have not seen them at the bird bath. I'm not lucky. I'm not able to watch it all day long, but lots and lots of robins coming in. This other seed here, pretty sure this is from a hackberry. It was about the size of the seeds that we see on our basswood trees, but this is minus the covering. I think it's a hackberry. I went to the hackberry tree I have in my yard, and I didn't see any berries on it, but again, it was magnified. And yes, it's a little fuzzy because I had dried it off on my bathrobe that I was wearing as I was taking these photos. So, but yeah, if you've got a loupe and you've got a cell phone, it's a neat way to get an up close view of some of these smaller objects that surround us. And here, Kim, this was your idea, and I thought it was so neat. This is hanging in front of it's a chime made of some cool looking implements, but it's in front of a sliding glass door, which can be a hazard at this time of year. These birds that are flying around, I think part of it is the fact that they're back in flocks and some of them might be on the move. There's some stress involved in that. And then I also think too, the angle of the sun at this time of year, it's spring and fall. I think that also affects the perception that birds have of glass. But Kim, you hung this up as a means of deterring them from bonking their heads. And I thought it was a great idea. It's pretty, and yet it's functional too. So thanks for that idea. And Kim, you shared this picture as well of a bird whisperer. This was a work day at Lake Run Forest Preserve, and that's a goldfinch on a volunteer's hand there. What it reminded me of too, there are birds that do feel comfortable, especially with time in the presence of humans. And reminded me of this. This is something I've always wanted to do, but haven't yet given it a try. It's sitting outside very still with a handful of birdseed and waiting for chickadees. I've heard titmice will do this too. There might be some other species that will come in as well, but it's a great way to be able to observe these little creatures up close. You just have to have some patience and the ability to sit still, which I know is harder for some of us than for others, but it is possible to get these animals without, a great deal of time and effort to get them used to your presence and have them come in and have a little snack. Kim, this next photo is also from you, same work day, and different creature though. These guys are everywhere. I would say in the last week, I've either seen or been told about maybe even a dozen Chinese mantids. And we know these are the Chinese by their size. Anything that's I would say 3 or 4 inches in length is a Chinese mantid, and most likely a female. Yesterday, we did a class at Potawatomi on spiders. And after going over some slides indoors, we went outside and, oh, an error has occurred. Doggone it. Let me see if I can get that to play. Try again later. Well, maybe you saw the photo there. It was actually a short video of a praying mantis on the side of the south side of Potawatomi, down by the Adult Activity Center. It was feeding on a paper wasp. There's several paper wasp nests around the community center. And this mantis was quick enough to just reach out and grab the wasp, and was pretty contentedly feeding away. We watched it for several minutes. So yeah, this is very much the time if you want to go out and see a praying mantis. Well, of course, now today, tomorrow, the weather, it's not going to be such great insect weather these next few days. I saw more rain tomorrow with a high in the 50s. If we get some more warm, sunny weather, there's still a chance you can go out and see these praying mantises around. Now, this, I was down at the homestead in Batavia today, and I do a program there the second Tuesday of every month. Actually, I'm there a few times. I go to a few different areas of the homestead. And today I went to visit a friend at one of the cottages there. And afterwards I was walking back to my car, and this stuff caught my eye. And I thought, I don't know that we've ever talked about whitewash. Now, whitewash is a polite term for the urates, or the white part of a bird dropping. And the presence of whitewash can sometimes, depending on the quantity and the size of the droppings, it can indicate the presence of either a roost of small songbirds that have maybe spent the night before up in the tree above the shrub that has the whitewash on it. It's also a way to look for owls. If an owl has been roosting in an area, they might leave whitewash on the shrubs below. But there is, you need to be a little vigilant in discerning in your whitewash watching. So this, the tree in the background there, that's a white pine tree. And I saw this from a distance, and I walked over to it, and I thought, I'm not sure that this is whitewash from a bird. And if we zoom in on it here, I can see, it's dripped, but bird droppings will sometimes have the fecal component to it, the darker matter. And they're kind of chalky or powdery. So I scraped, you can see on this leaf up here on the right, I scraped a little bit of it just to see what the consistency was, and it was sticky. And it was very fragrant. It smelled like pine trees. So not all whitewash is created equally or created by birds. Trees, especially pine trees, they can drip sap down, and it can mimic, it can look a lot like bird whitewash. But I walked a little bit farther down this tree line, and I found some actual whitewash. So I thought you'd want to see that too, just in case, you want to go out and as you're checking for animal signs. Here, if we look at this, we can zoom in. There is some variation in the color, and then here's some dark matter within the white. So this is actual bird whitewash, not owl. It wasn't quite big enough for that, but a bird of some size spent some time in the trees above. By the way, this was all buckthorn. There's a lot of buckthorn on that property down there. It forms a hedge pretty much all the way around the grounds there. I don't know that it's how high or if it ranks at all on the management plan there, but it's and I didn't, by the way, once I could see what this was, I didn't have to touch it or check to see if it was chalky. I was pretty sure at this point that a bird had left it. Lots and lots of cedar waxwings were there today, feeding on the buckthorn, and then the areas that don't have buckthorn have honeysuckle. So yeah, lots of invasives to be had for birds that are in their flocks now and looking for fruit to feed on. So this, our pal Valerie, she used to manage the nature programs for the Forest Preserve District. She was out today. And this was at the Forest Preserve up on Route 25. It's called Hoshite Woods. It's this was something one of her dogs found, and she texted me this photo, and she said, "What do you think?" Is the fur is black, but there's no. She said there was no odor. There was no skunky smell to it, and I was looking closer at some of this fur here, the entrails that have been removed here. My thought was the way it was kind of picked apart like this, that it was a bird of some sort. Hawks tend to pluck, tear their prey apart and eat it in the field. Owls oftentimes will try to carry the prey away unless it's too large. But I'm thinking more bird as opposed to coyote. As for who the unfortunate mammal was, probably not skunk if there was no odor. I was looking at the fur, and my brain was going, man, could there have been a black muskrat? Some of this fur it reminded me of the thickness of muskrat. And then Valerie said, well, what do you think about feral cat? That seems to be a pretty reasonable guess too. I said we should do some research and maybe do a class in wildlife ID using entrails. It does not really look like a herbivore. If you've ever seen the remains of, say, a rabbit, there's pretty distinct, how rabbit droppings are little balls, look like Cocoa Puffs. Oftentimes you can see those forming in the colon, and I'm not seeing that here with this animal. But anyway, there's one less dark furry mammal at Hoshite Woods. I was going to ask one of our co-workers here at the Park District, because she volunteers for a group called Horsepower that has barn just north of Hoshite Woods. And I thought I would check with her to see if they maybe had a dark barn cat, a black barn cat, and if maybe it's gone missing. I don't know. Let's move on. This isn't the most pleasant of viewing, and we've got some other cool things we want to look at. Remember the little wasp from last week? This was, again, my friend Nikki. She had adopted this creature that kept falling into her swimming pool. Turns out he was afflicted with something that's called deformed wing virus, DWV, and it's something that affects bees and wasps in the area. He wasn't able to fly, and he kept tumbling into her swimming pool. So she took him in and set him up in a little terrarium. She sent me this photo. We talked a little bit last week about how owls have wasps have facial recognition. And she said, this is what he would do when he would see her, in the room. He would go over to the side of the glass, and he'd put his little feet up on the side of the glass. So I keep saying he, because this is a male paper wasp. We can tell that by the curls on the ends of the antennae and his light colored face. So he'd go over and he'd get all excited. And she would pick flowers from her yard so he could sip the nectar from those. And then she also would slice open a grape so he could get moisture from that. And all was well and good until Sunday. She's not sure, if it was just his time to go, or if, maybe that wing virus carries with it some other, side effects. But anyway, the little wasp, he was loved, and he had a good life despite his wing problem, but he is no longer. So condolences to Nikki and anyone who knew this little wasp. I'm sure she'll find something else cool and amuse us in the future. I'd invited her to sit in on a session, but she's got her ukulele lessons on Tuesday night. So until ukulele's group stops meeting, we won't be able to see her in person, but hopefully she'll keep us supplied with fun photos like this. Now, I also wrote, we talked actually that was a few weeks ago, we talked about the tortoise rescue that wasn't the tortoise that we thought had been released or dumped in one of our parks. And it turns out he had a home. He just happened to leave the home for a little while. So I'd written about him, and I've heard from a lot of people who are either tortoise fanciers or tortoise rescuers. And this is one I know a lot of you have Facebook pages of your own. I thought you might enjoy following this guy. This is Poopy McTortoisebutt. He was rescued by a gentleman named Jason. He's got a nice little following on Facebook. And he has dedicated this page towards enriching the lives of people who enjoy turtles and tortoises. Every day, just about every day, he's got some kind of fun post about what he's been eating. There's some great videos of, I don't know if he's Poopy or Mr. McTortoisebutt. I don't know what the proper way to refer to him is, but he feeds very vigorously on the grasses in the yard. There's a video showing him chasing after trying to find all the crab apples that have fallen down in the yard. It's pretty engaging, and if you enjoy that kind of thing, I recommend you checking out Mr. Poopy. You can learn a lot. He's a good size. He's still growing though. He's only 60 pounds. Ding Dong, the tortoise that we found here in St. Charles, he was over 70. So, and they can get to be over 100 pounds. So neat animals, very, very special people that are cut out to care for animals of that size. But give old Poopy a visit. Maybe give him a like too. They're pretty neat. So Bob, I got to thank you for this picture and this one too. Another white squirrel. So we've, for those of you at home keeping track, we've got the white squirrel up on Crane Road near Primrose Farm. And we've got the white squirrel that's in South Elgin on Route 31, across the street from the RK Bar and Grill. And then there's this one. This one is from a home in Elgin, near, I believe it's near the Hawthorne Hills Nature Center. And it's looks like it's doing okay. Looks like it's also trying to escape detection. The one, the white squirrel that's up on Crane Road, I believe is in its 4th year. So, if they can make it through these warm weather months where there's not a lot of white stuff around, and they get into winter, even though I think it's harder for them to stay warm. I've always heard that black squirrels, which you would think wouldn't blend in well in the snow, they fare pretty well because of the way their dark fur can absorb the heat from the sun. But anyway, yet another white squirrel in our area. And then several of you, Kay, I know you sent me some pretty, you were the first one to send me an actual article about this. Maybe you've all heard already, the tree that is home to the Mooseheart eagles, or they've lived for, I'd say, close to 10 years, is gonna have to come down. It's getting really unstable, and the fear is that with this giant nest up on top of it, that if it gets saturated with water, with rain, or with snow or ice, that it's going to come tumbling down. And the big concern is that it's going to fall down after there are eggs or eaglets in their next late winter and early spring. So there's a Facebook, I'm sorry, not a Facebook page. There's an actual website, moosehearteagles.com, where you can go to get more information about what the plans are for taking the nest or taking the tree down. I believe there were some plans to even try and salvage the nest, which I'd imagine weighs hundreds of pounds by this point because they've been there so long. Some of you might remember the female of this pair. Now the male died in 2019 of the what we think of as the original Mooseheart pair. He got hit by a car. So the female has a new mate now. But she dates back to I think it was maybe like 2008 or so. The first nest they had at Mooseheart was you could see it from Randall Road. Like it once it became known that it was there were some problems with traffic, with people pulling off on the shoulder of Randall Road, which isn't really a good idea, but people were pulling over to take pictures. That was a white pine tree that had been topped off. Maybe, I don't know if it had gotten hit by lightning or wind had taken the top off, and they had a nice platform to build a nest on there. Well, something happened, another storm came through and that nest came down. The two eaglets there were rescued. The hope was that the parents would care for them on the ground, but they didn't pick up on it. So those had to be taken in. It was Flint Creek Wildlife that did that rescue back in 2011. The upshot of it is they don't want that to happen again. They want to make sure that these eagles are able to have enough time to build a new nest before the next breeding season comes around. So I'd heard the date of October 26th. I would imagine that's the target date. Sometimes, weather might have an effect or might have to change that, but that's the target date that they want to take this nest down. So if you haven't been by there and you want to see it one last time, you do have to be a member of Moose International in order to enter the property, but I know people do sometimes pull off, not on Route 31, there's really no shoulder there, but on Mooseheart Road. You can snap a quick photo or just do a drive-by just to take a look at it one more time before it's gone. Now this, Michael, I have to thank you for this. This is a class that's coming up on October 26th. This is a couple that lives out in or near Yellowstone National Park. They've got a YouTube channel, and they also do these classes. I'm gonna sign up for this one. This one sounds really cool. It's looking at wildlife behavior, something that I've always been fascinated with, how to decipher different things that animals are doing, different postures, different movements, different sounds, making sense of those to figure out what it is that the animals around us are saying. Now, granted, the wildlife in Yellowstone is a little bit different from northeastern Illinois, but I thought it was a really cool thing, and I thought that you guys might be interested in it as well. So with that, I'm going to stop the share because I wanted to show you this. there we go. I wanted to show you the Loupe that I have. In case you couldn't see it when we were talking about the, quote unquote macro photography before. These are, there's many different levels of quality for these. They range from say $5 to maybe $25 over at Science and Surplus. In fact, I think some of you KCCNers, I think we give these out sometimes as part of the class. We've tried different incentives for people, and some years it's been this, but you take this and you put it up, over the lens of your camera. And then you have to put it down close to what your subject matter is, just like you would use a loupe. You put it up to your eye, and then you go real close up to what it is that you're looking at. Like I can see. Yeah, never mind. Need to trim my nails. But you can get 10 times closer by using this, and it actually works pretty well. So give that a try should you be out and about. Let's take a look at what our chats have going on here. Lots at Red Oak. Chris, were you talking about the skunk cabbage?
Skunk cabbage, yeah.
Yeah.
If you go north from Red Oak, now I couldn't tell you where, it's to the left off of that trail. And you go down and, there's tons of skunk cabbage down there.
There sure is. So that and I'm glad you brought that up. So the area, the northern part of Red Oak's property, starting around there, in fact, that's where that the remnants of that old what would you call it? There's a milk. There used to be a dairy. A farmer had some dairy cows in that part of the property. This was long before it was a park. And there's a little the remnants of like a cooling well where they would put the cans of milk. That whole area is full of seeps, and so groundwater is coming up to the surface, and that's the ideal place to find skunk cabbage. So starting there, the north part of Red Oak, and then going all the way, Loupe Park would probably have skunk cabbage too, were it not so highly modified. Loupe now has there used to be a small pond there that was made when the archers, Aurora Land archers, created the mounds that they used when they used to have their outdoor archery range there. And then that pond was expanded to be used as a teaching site for classes at Red Oak. They made the pond, they put boardwalks in and everything. If that hadn't been done, all that groundwater, I think, would be forming habitat for skunk cabbage throughout the Loupe property as well. But then if you continue going north, then you hit Glenwood Park, and that's where I saw that fruit before. So that's a good tip. Chris, maybe you'll go down and check out, look for skunk cabbage fruit down there, because boy, I haven't been able to find it anywhere else. And the fact that our restoration team, they are out there almost crawling around with their herbicide tanks and just putting little dabs on the plants that they're trying to get rid of. So but they're just not seeing any. So that's another good tip, another place to check out.
Yeah, I was going to try that in the next couple of days and see if I could find anything.
Yeah, if you do, grab a picture.
I will, definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, and Laura, you mentioned Trout Park. That idea was brought up too, because there is a good stand of skunk cabbage there as well. The steward there, Sue Bone, I don't think she would mind if we took some pictures of the skunk cabbage that's up there. And Greg and Kelly, if you want inspiration for hand-feeding birds, Jocelyn Anderson Photography. here's a good list. Black-capped chickadees, tufted titmice, redwings, downy woodpeckers, and cardinals. The hand of snacks. I'll check that out. I'm going to make a note of that. Jocelyn Anderson Photography. So yeah, it's a fun thing to do. Even you know, if you want to get some inspiration from her on techniques, and then give it a try yourself. It's on my bucket list when someday when I'm less fidgety, better able to sit still. I will give that a try. And yes, Meredith, I would be glad to send you and anyone else who's interested in the Yellowstone link. I can forward that to you after class. So let me make a note of that.
I would like that too.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I guess I
Alright.
should have said.
All right. Coming your way. Yeah, it sounded like a really cool class. And then that what I'll send you, it will also have the name of their YouTube channel as well. So you can see some of the other things they did. When Mike sent that information on the information that has the class, the email was actually about a video that they posted of some weasel activity, a short-tailed weasel that they'd run into when they were out and about in Yellowstone. And Erica Lemon conducted a skunk cabbage class a couple of years ago at Bliss Woods. Skunk cabbage class, was that just a go out and find it, Diane? Was it in the springtime? And if you don't have a microphone, that's okay. I can talk for you.
No, there we go. Couldn't find my button. No, we went out and there was a huge patch of skunk cabbage, and it was right off the parking lot.
Okay.
So you might check with Erica about that, because I mean, if I were looking for skunk cabbage, that's where I would go, because there was quite a large area of it.
And right by the parking lot, by not the one back by the picnic pavilion, or the one closer to
No,
the
it's on the other side of the road, I think.
Okay.
It would be on what would that be? It'd be on the west side of the road.
Okay.
And then we just walked along a short trail, and it was right there.
Okay.
And as I say, it was a pretty large area. I was surprised to see so much. And we just went out. I was trying to find in my emails, I was trying to find the information about the class, but
Okay.
I think it was, early spring.
Okay. Well, and that's the thing. And I've just been so conditioned to go out in early spring, because that is what kicks off the parade of springtime wildflowers. You go out when a lot of times there's still snow on the ground or frost in the ground, and you look for that bloom, and it signals, what's to come. But
if I get a chance, Pam, I'll go back, because I know I took a lot of photos just so you can see the area. Because I was surprised at what a large area it was of skunk cabbage. So,
well, what's befuddling about this fruit thing is that how many times do they say, what's a flower's purpose but to form seeds? And so here we know where these flowers are appearing, but we can't somehow the fruit isn't there. So anyway, I will add that to the list too. Skunk cabbage at Bliss Woods. And then Nancy, you're asking more about the Yellowstone. So I'll see if I can pull this up without messing up screen share. The couple that's conducting the class on wildlife behavior, their website is called YellowstoneLife.com. And if I do this right here, let me see if I can get it to share. You seeing that? They conduct classes. They again, I mentioned the YouTube channel that they have. It's a neat site, and you can follow them through the emails that they send out, and just revel in their ability to capture all the gorgeous things that Yellowstone has to offer. So YellowstoneLife.com, and then I will send out to those of you who have requested it a link to the classes they have. All right, well, that's pretty much what I had for this evening. Does anybody else have anything they'd care to share? I had to send you a thank you, Susie. I think I mentioned last week, and I made the mistake the week before of drinking chai tea. So last week was chamomile, and I did manage to stay awake till the end of the program. This week, it's a really tasty, it's like a sugar cookie, non-caffeinated tea. That is making me kind of sleepy.
It's supposed to make you sleepy.
I much appreciate it, but not at work.
Well, you can just take a little nap, a power nap.
I'll do that. All right, everybody. If that's it, I as always appreciate you tuning in, and look forward to seeing you again next week for more good nature. Have a great rest
Thank
of your
you,
week.
Pam.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
Pam.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good
Pam.
night.
Good night.
Thanks, Pam.